Yo, it's Lifey. I have not been on here in so long. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for that. I've been stressed and I'm figuring out my life, so if you understand, great. If you don't, I don't care. Yeah. I missed you guys and I want to make videos and commit to it. But yeah, this is my story I wrote. It's creative nonfiction and fiction. It's kind of intertwined. I don't want to say it's totally real, totally not real, because it's like a mix. But you would never know, right? But yeah, it's called My Sleep Paralysis Demon. It never quite makes sense to me when I wake up. Every time I do think I'm awake, I'm in another dream yet again. These dreams, more like bittersweet nightmares, are the same recurring concepts that have been repeated since I was 13 years old. I can't ever get good sleep since all I get is everything but that. What is good sleep anyway, and why does everyone else have it but me? It's like feeling time is in many dimensions all at once. Like spiraling in a circle in the merry-go-round at the fair. You see everyone else's bodies become stagnant, infrared imprints every time you go around faster and faster. You might as well quit. Oh, but you can't quit. No, this is supposed to happen to you. It's what you've always dreamt of. There's no escaping this exhilarating ride. This is what you wanted, now take it while you have it. You must stay. You must stay, says a strikingly red figure with green drips dripping from his body. His green tongue, the size of a cruise ship, was the only characteristic that really drew me in besides his skin color. I would know since that tongue is sometimes all I could see, like a runway down Hollywood Boulevard, except you're walking down the green carpet. His taste buds that laid along it were fluffy yet rough. It was almost as if Dr. Seuss played a part in creating him. I danced along this carpet maybe too many times than I should have. Sometimes I fell, sometimes I got right back up, with no help on his part since he couldn't really see me anyway. Bandages in an X shape cover the spots he would have eyes. Before I thought he was just lazy, but now I see why he couldn't help me. His lack of sight made me wonder why concerns I had were never analyzed, why I was left there worrying if my reality was blurrier than his. Like one specific night, I remember so clearly, I and everyone else is non-stop spinning, yet he isn't. His eyes, well, the sockets of where they used to be, stare into my soul without even trying. I'm locked to him, and it's almost real. He feels so fucking real. He keeps me here. I don't know why. He never leaves, and I'm starting to wonder if I'll have to live with the concept of him for the rest of my life. Every night I regret putting myself through this turmoil, but to simply exist, one must get at least 8 hours of sleep every night. I might be sleeping, but I'm not sleeping in heavy, peaceful, long scenery moments of the movie Gravity, watching beautiful stars the size of my eyelashes pass by me, or appreciating the blazingly hot ball of fire that sits in space, heating the Earth up each year. Though that does seem quite intriguing to me. I wonder what it'd be like to be 226,000 miles away from Earth, because then it wouldn't matter how much sleep you got. Your dreams would become life, almost like you didn't have to work for it. My dreams trap me in this neverland I'll never quite grasp, but maybe that's all I ever wanted. A way out of this place we call life. Life is a real hell, a lot of people say. I think it's becoming truer as time ticks away. Whenever I would knock out, my imagination that runs all day every day finally is let go, and my brain chemicals would run free. All the neurons that move like motorcyclists speeding 90 on a 75 on this 10-lane freeway of Los Angeles traffic. My brain cells move so fast it almost feels so slow. My sleep paralysis demon makes it slow. He's just the same concept repeatedly. He's the same and doesn't want to change. His presence is cold, yet hot at the same time, as if his physical form is an iceberg, and he's melting away straight into the palm of my hand, or, shall I say, the center of my brain. He's a migraine, but a bittersweet one. He never seems to be anything but the extreme, which I guess is why he's around. I could relate to somebody finally, though somebody who was never actually here. He was instantly there when I had a long, depressing, lonely day, though. He instantly was placed within my dreams 2 minutes in that episode of me conking out like I'd been slapped by Will Smith's hand 5 times in a row. Sometimes I felt like this demon I talked to is more committed to me than all the other guys I've been romantically involved with ever. Like my boyfriend at the time. I understand that his commitment to me was not always there since we had an on and off relationship. I know why I felt like nobody. I know what I was getting myself into, yet I wanted clarity on why I felt so hidden from his life. Why can't he tell his parents about me? He's 20 like me, lives in the US, doesn't want to follow the traditional arranged marriage normal in the Muslim culture, has his own job, car, and apartment now. He's pretty much on his own. I understand why no one would want to feel disowned, but it's like his family never really cared for him anyway. And that's literally true. Every time we called, I heard his parents and siblings fighting, punching walls, and never got fixed. He grew up basically fighting for his own life, since his family gave him a household to sleep, eat, and watch TV in, not a household where you feel at home. He told me that one day he would eventually confess his love for me to his parents, knowing the result was going to be heavy. But why not sooner? Why would it matter if I was brought up into conversation and they told him to fuck off? His 2 sisters did it, his brother did too. It was now his turn. Nonetheless, I still loved and cared for him. He made me feel like I was on a never-ending roller coaster. A new day begins, and I never knew if I'd be left stuck or free. He told me repeatedly, "Zoe, why do you stay then? I know we have history. You make me seem I'm not good for you. Honestly, someone else would be better for you. You could finally sleep better at night." But I never took this advice, although now that I really think about it, I really could have saved so much struggle. People around me convinced me that this was love. His intentions to want to help me were a reason to not complain. That is a green flag in their eyes. Someone who stays around makes you feel like they're the only one who really sees you like no one else can. Stays around. That's how he really showed he cared about me. Horace, I mean. He was there for me more than I was myself. He committed to me. He wanted to protect me from all the other humans in my life, who gaslit me every day, telling me how stupid I was to think this demon was good for my mental health. Which is ironic, since they thought my real-life relationship was totally healthy. This was one of the reasons I never understood people in real life. All of them said things but did the opposite. People relate more to pop culture than the actuality of their life. They binge shows wanting a creative, blossoming life, yet make their life a living hell. Why are people like that? You match with somebody thinking you're going to be madly in love with them for another 2 years, but then they do some dumb shit like having to go to court because of your husband having relations with 12 other women you had no idea about. At least Horace, his physical form, represented his external aura. I already knew he wasn't extraordinarily perfect. I never wanted that in a creature. I accepted many of his imperfections and ran with it. I wanted a free ride, so I got it. I told myself to roll with it, since I never clearly stated what I wanted to commit to in the first place. I figured him out nightly, even if time went by painstakingly slow in this dream world he trapped me in. I no longer pondered why he kept me here, for now I understand why he stayed. I hated knowing that there's this sleep paralysis demon in my head every night, yet the eeriness and uncertainty he brings to the table every time we chat was sometimes very delicious. Boy, could he talk. You'd think that such a long tongue's the size of a cruise ship, he'd get tired every now and then, but at the time of hearing them, it made me want to be just the people he described. One time, he told me about his relationships with other demons, like the human-looking ones in the show Good Place, especially this one girl named Sarah. She was described as very beautiful, hilarious, and stubborn, just like me. She looked exactly like me, which was ironic because of how different they were in other aspects from one another. I stood about 6 feet tall, while she did not. She wore more girly girl clothes, sometimes to make sure a guy could remember for a century. A baby pink dress with black ruffles on the shoulder pads, with tall black knee-high socks and a pink outline of a cat on each knee. She wore barely any jewelry, since she shined more than the solar rays in the sun. Her laugh would bounce 70 feet tall off of trampolines if that was possible. Her presence was so heartwarming. It made his heart throb for her every time he thought of her. Describing his love for her almost felt like she was still in his life. He had known her since they were about just starting 3rd grade. They were described as ride or die, inseparable to the end. In yearbook portraits every year in elementary through middle school. Though he never said the same about me, which I always brushed off since it's not even real. Why should I feel so envious? It's quite intriguing how a demon that looks disgusting and terrifying can be such a funny, admirable character. His presence is utterly impossible. No man could ever look anything like this. Even though this was a repeated, bittersweet nightmare, I've gathered enough information to describe his true physical nature. Though he was a demon, he at least had style. Mans always wore scuffed up, artistic graffiti long shirts with a thrifted quality fox fur black leather coat. His sweatpants were also torn and had Gucci written all over it. A long chain hooked onto his overalls hovered above the surface he walked on. He had a bucket hat that said "Amazing Grandpa" with red embroidered letters on a black background with red lines stretched around the rim. He wasn't a grandpa, nor did he have any idea what it'd be like to raise a child. The clothes he wore fitted the person he wasn't. He fit in classy, bougie clothes, but he never fit in that narrative, although he really tried to make it seem like he deserved the label. His charm left me speechless, at first since I thought I was really only invested in him. Why was this sleep paralysis demon so captivating? Why did I want to keep riding this merry-go-round? Why was his persona so gravitating when every time I felt nauseous waking up? I understood why people thought I was crazy. Never going to therapy before, I felt so much adrenaline. I loved chaos. Chaos was always an aspect in my life I loved the most. It was the time I felt most alive, even within a nightmare. And that's why I loved Horus. He was my parasite movie of a nightmare, a psychological thriller, something I could try to figure out. This nightmare didn't stop at the spinning part, though. I should mention the most excruciatingly painful part. It wasn't until a few months ago that this being no longer stepped foot in my dreams, nor will he ever again. Since this concept of him, which was amazing new to me. I'm so sorry. He left without leaving any note, which was amazing news to everyone else, since this concept of him left me in scattered 1,000 puzzle pieces every morning. They thought they heard every part of him that was terrible, but there's more to the puzzle that they didn't know. You see, this man was attached to me, like quite literally I gorilla glued him to my brain so he never tried to leave me. Not only that, but I spent 7 years trying to figure out a way to finally grasp him in person, which is impossible, I know. This figure is never going to be existing in person. That's what really hurts me. I never wanted to be with somebody beautiful externally, yet so utterly awful-hearted internally, and to me, I thought he fit the opposite. He confused me to death, but I reminded myself how much he stayed around, how long he was there for me when no one else was, when really that's just naive. His words never met his actions, and quite frankly, I never saw that this was a repeating dream until I woke up the next morning. The next morning, I felt like I was hit by 2 semi-trucks. My migraine was still there. The sun was peering in my blinds, shining like a laser beam in my eyeballs. I just tried to sit up to look at the time, and the alarm went off right when I looked. I think it read 5:55 a.m., not sure, since my body kept telling my brain to fall back asleep. I couldn't see anything else but this huge red triangular blob with green drips appearing directly above my body. The drips were so slimy, it was so gross. I wanted to throw up, but I couldn't. Am I dreaming again? The blob then winked at me, and it got closer to my face. But how could it wink? It has no eyeballs? My heart was racing so fast, for I was trying to get out of what felt like quicksand. I thought I was moving so fast, I could run free from this figure holding me down, but I couldn't. "You must stay," said the triangular blob, with green slime dripping all over my face. His voice sounded so monotone. It sounded just like my partner at the time. But my boyfriend never really sounded like this, unless he put that voice changer on top of his actual voice, which was squeakier and funnier. Because we were in a long-distance relationship, we occasionally called. 7 years we tried over and over to make this official, but it was hard to put a label on it. Which was one of the reasons I was so exhausted and depressed all the time. I never knew what it felt like to be somebody's everything. I had known him since I was 13 years old, and we texted each other every other day. We became good friends before knowing we had any feelings for each other. Almost 2 years ago, it felt so freeing. To know somebody loved me for who I was tasted like cotton candy in my mouth. He made me laugh so hard it sounded louder than a tiger's roar in a circus. His presence, even though I only witnessed him in person 3 times, felt like microdosing of mushrooms. Like the 3rd season in Stranger Things where everyone goes to the fair, colorful wonderland. He never left me and I never left him, and that was our promise to never break, or so I thought. I wasn't in Wonderland until I got the notion he wasn't. The drips started melting away, and all I could feel was my heart sinking into the mattress. The triangular blobs also started to blur, and a new face began to appear. He was no longer red, but his aura was. I knew that if I could touch it, it would burn my finger off. His face began to distort back into a humanly face. Why did I feel so eager to touch him? But I couldn't. I was literally locked to the bed. His face slowly pushed his way into my face, and mine did too. My alarm went off again. June 27th, 2022 was the date. I remember it so clearly, for coincidentally, Heat Waves by Glass Animals started playing when I opened Spotify. It was now 7:56 a.m., and I got a text from my boyfriend. It read, "I love you, but I can't be the one for you." I skimmed the rest of the 30 messages he sent me the night before. I couldn't believe my eyes. My boyfriend blocked me from every social media platform, including the regular phone number, and deleted all the millions of data we sent to each other for the last 7 years. I quickly got out of my bed and sat on the floor, repeating what had happened the night before. Did I say floor? Sorry. We got into a fight because I told him he needed to tell his parents that he loved me and wanted to be with me even if it was risky. He didn't want to, so I broke apart from him for a couple of days, never knowing that this would end so fast. A few months later, I still wonder what it'd be like if I didn't bring it up. Since I last noted he broke up with me and my heart has felt neutral, I found out that he's already talking to this new girl who looks like a pick-me e-girl, daughter of corpse husband. Why he chose someone who cares more for looks more than an expansive intellect one can have, I don't know. That's when it hit me that he broke off of this cosmic relationship I thought we had to protect himself from me. I could talk for hours on end about how much I envisioned our lives intertwined, conquering the world together. The adventures we'd have were endless, I thought. It took about a week for me to not shake every night and day. Funny enough, I wish I saw my sleep paralysis demon again. I want to tell him what he missed out on, how sad I really am since he's so far away from me now. It's strange that they both left the same kind of impact on my life, yet leaving in 2 different dimensions. I was so attached to this boy who was never going to see me, physically nor mentally, ever again. A flower can only grow if the sun is there every morning to wake it up, uplift it. I was his son, he was not mine. He gave me a river, but not a dam that could break at any moment now. This water I absorbed for most importantly him, and the rest I left for myself to drown in. I thought that if a person stays around, that the pain wouldn't matter. It still feels so cosmic, even though I know that this ride is over. I never want to put myself through that again. If it's a date at a fair, so be it, but it better not be another boring merry-go-round. Tell me what you think in the comments, and this is definitely a work in progress, so I'm not going to accept, oh, this is so shitty. Give me critical shit. Critique me correctly. But I hope you enjoyed, guys. Yeah, just tell me your thoughts. I don't really care if you hate me for this or whatever, or he sees this. Tell me your thoughts if you care that much. Again, yeah, work in progress, still working on it, but yeah, tell me what you think.